Discovery uses 20 seconds to LOS egress.
Captain, nice to be in orbit.
All right. Well, welcome everybody back to the Gnomon live stream. My name is Adam Hartel. I'm your host today, and we were just watching the Gnomon 2020 Student Reel. For those of you who've been with us for the past few minutes, and that's a collection of all student work from Gnomon. These are from demo reels that students are working on as they're finishing up the program, and some of the work you saw is even from midstream in the midst of the program. It's a great example of the kind of education that Gnomon provides to train artists to be professionals in the entertainment industry. So today's stream, we've got a treat for you. We're going to be spending some time with guest artist James Schauf, and I'll introduce him in just a few moments. But I did want to mention today that closed captioning is available for our stream today via our YouTube channel, streaming on that platform. And you should be able to get a link in the chat if you are in need of closed captioning. Definitely head over there and utilize that feature. So today, we are going to be talking with 3D modeler James Schauf, who also happens to be a Gnomon instructor. So he's going to be talking about his journey, some of the projects that he's worked on, his time at Gnomon, and we're going to also be taking questions from the chat. So during the course of the stream, please feel free to type any questions you've got, whether they're questions directly for our guest or they're questions just about Gnomon in general. One of our admissions advisors is in the chat moderating as well, and they're available in real time during the stream to chat with you and give you any information that you might be looking for. So without any further delay, let's introduce our guest. After nearly a decade in the United States Air Force, James Schauf chose to pursue his talents as an artist and became the first veteran to graduate from Gnomon. His skills as a modeler can be seen in films, games, and television, and he's contributed to award-winning television and feature films. James also brings his varied experience to his work as an instructor. James' professional experience includes working as a visual development artist at Paramount Pictures, modeler at Walt Disney Animation Studios, modeler and texture artist at PSYOP, Aaron Sims Company, and character modeler at Nickelodeon Animation Studio. So with that, I want to say, James, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you, Adam. First off, what an amazing reel, right? looking at that reel, just super, super inspiring, and just crazy, crazy talent. So definitely hats off to all the students who are working so hard to create amazing, amazing work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's worth saying too that, sometimes I'll talk to artists out there that are looking at Gnomon, they'll see the reel and they'll say, they'll kind of be intimidated and go, I can't make that kind of stuff. And that's the whole point, because that's what you learn while you're at Gnomon, is how to do those things. We've got some amazing graduates who did not know a thing about 3D when they first started our program. So James, how are you doing, sir? It's great to have you here.
Doing great.
All right.
Glad to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, I think I'd like to first kick it off just by getting to know you a bit as an artist. If you wouldn't mind telling us, about your journey, how you found your way to knowing that art was something you wanted to do vocationally, and then also how you found your way to Gnomon.
Okay. So, like many of you guys, that are watching, it all started like when I was a little kid, right? We're all like scribbling and coloring books, and you start to feel the vibe. You start to enjoy this process of creation, and that carried me all the way through elementary school into high school, and just kept loving it more and more. After graduating high school, that's where I hit a little bit of a snag in my development as an artist. I was currently living in Okinawa, Japan. I was a military brat, and at the time there wasn't the internet, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't awesome schools like Gnomon out there. So I really felt like I was isolated on an island, figuratively and literally.
Right.
And it was just a time in my life where I really didn't know what to do. And I just continued to work on my portfolio the best I possibly could, but there weren't any great resources out there. There were some colleges that I was looking into, but man, it literally felt like it was on another planet, and I just didn't know what to do with myself at the time. And I ended up joining the military myself. So I joined the military, and you guys can imagine the military is far from the creative environment. So I ended up shriveling up into an artistic zombie while I was in the military. It was a really, really great experience, but artistically not a place where I felt like I was going to be trying to reach my goals, which at the time I didn't even really know, if I could make it as an artist, right? There's always that, not always, but some of us, we have that self-doubt. Like, I don't know if I could be a professional artist. I don't know if I could make enough money to eat and pay my bills. Yeah. So there was that major fear there. And I just, being that I grew up, a military kid, I knew the military would take care of me. I knew they'd make sure that I had a place to live, food to eat, and they'd pay me. And they would pay for my education, which was a huge thing for me. I always knew, well, what if I end up deciding to go to school later on? So it was about 8 years into my Air Force career that I got sent over to Kuwait, and it was, pretty much like as soon as looking out the window of flying into Kuwait, I knew that I needed to go back to what I loved. And what I loved is that creation part of my life. And they landed the plane. I pretty much dropped my stuff off in the tent. I went to the little local on-base store there, bought paper and pen, and just started drawing like crazy. And it was with my time there that I got to the point I really, really regretted not pursuing trying to become a professional artist. It really started to eat me while I was there that I didn't even try. And to me, it's about trying and not trying to regret things in life. And I got back to America, and I pretty much instantly went to my boss and said, hey, I think I want to get out of the military. I think I want to get out early. And people around me were surprised. They were, shocked. Some of them knew and had seen art that I had created prior to joining the military. And those friends were super supportive. They're like, yeah, man, you're dumb for being here. Get out there, go for it. So it was really nice to have supportive friends. But I also had friends that were on the other side, like, hey, man, this is a pretty scary move. You're almost halfway through the military, another, 11 years, and you could retire. But I knew inside of me, I knew I needed to at least try. So I got out. Just prior to getting out, I was just totally lost. I didn't know what to do, where to go. what to learn or what I could be capable of doing. So I just started to think about how I could become the best artist I could be, not even knowing what that meant. And it was scary. It was really, really scary knowing what I had left behind. But it was through just, being really, really hungry of trying to be the best artist I could be that I stumbled upon some Gnomon DVDs. And I stumbled upon these DVDs, and this is like the old days, there wasn't the Gnomon workshop online. These
Sure,
are like literally real CDs that you had to like put into your computer and just like looking at this and like, wow, this is it. This is what I've been wanting. And then reading about the people who are making these DVDs, it's just not, some guy who did a commercial back in 1985 or, some outdated workflow or anything. These are like industry standards. These are people who are working in movies now that I'm like, these are the people I want to learn from. So I started to try to collect as many DVDs as I could. And then with some more research, I'm like, wait a minute, there's a school? Like, you got to be kidding me. And at the time I lived in Ventura, California, which it was, on a good day in traffic in LA, it would be about an hour. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is it. This is what had been planned for me. So, me and my wife, we took a tour of the school and just totally impressed with the whole environment, the vibe. As I talk about, my first experience of going to Gnomon, we walk around and it just, you're seeing movie posters everywhere and the tour is awesome and everything. You're like, oh yeah, and all these posters, these are from, projects that students have worked on or instructors have worked on. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is amazing. So we go into this lab and it's like a dungeon. There's no windows to the outside world. The lights were off. And I just love telling this story because it was at that moment that it really sparked for me that Gnomon was for me, because we walk into this dark room, it's just like, the only thing you see like the glow of the monitors, and you see it like bounce light on the people's faces, and just the look I saw in those people's eyes. I was like, that's me. That these people are my people. These are the people I want to be around. And this is the school I feel like I could devote my time, money, and my efforts towards. And so that was my introduction to Gnomon. And I took 2 individual classes to kind of like fill it out as an extension student, just to kind of see if it really was as good as what it seemed. So it was in those 2 classes that I was like, that's it. I'm submitting my portfolio, crossing my fingers with whatever I was able to get might be enough to get accepted into the program. And I got that acceptance email, and I was just like, oh, this is unbelievable. This is it. My journey starts right here, because I felt a little bit lost prior to starting this school. DVDs and workshops and all this is really, really great. But man, when you've got an instructor that you can like talk to, like the one instructor that I had, one of my first instructors was Larry Wu. And Larry Wu would come into class, and he works at Disney. And I was like, holy smokes, my instructor works at Disney. How cool is this? And I felt like a little kid. And I felt like this guy was like a rock star. I'm like, I'm learning from a rock star. And he would come in and he's like, well, this is, these are workflows. This is what you guys need to know for the industry. I'm like, man, this is it. This guy's giving me tips I wished I was able to know when I was just super, super new at the beginning of my journey. So Larry Wu is like, he was awesome. Like, he was that first rock star instructor that I have, and just crazy that years later I'm working side by side with Larry, and we
awesome.
kind of joke around about that, that first class we had together and how long ago that it was. And so that was my introduction to Gnomon.
That's amazing. And I mean, I've had the pleasure of hearing some of your story before, when you shared at our high school summer camp on campus last year. And it's very inspiring, because it reminds me of something that Ian McKeag actually shared on the stream earlier this year. One of the pieces of advice he gave to artists that felt like, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I'm not good enough. They're dealing with all those doubts. And this, maybe this advice or this act is not for everybody, but he basically just said, if you don't think you're good enough, just try stopping. Try not doing it for a while. And if you realize that you can't not do this, sure. then you know that you're good enough. You know you're meant for it.
Yeah.
And I think your story also is case in point on that. You know, how much we owe it to ourselves to pursue our passions, I think.
And that's, you know, that's what it is. Like I said, it's about that regret. Well, I didn't even try. It doesn't hurt anything to try. You know, it's to try something and to know this. Has this made me a better person? Has this made me a better artist? Have I increased the speed of my workflow? Is the quality of my work better? And, you know, without a question, that was like, this is it. This is for me. And then what I tell, you know, like Ian said, you know, he kind of says, you know, well, try not to do it. You know, try not to be creative. You know, now that creation side of me has sparked like it has, like, if I'm not doing something creative, I start feeling bummed out. I start feeling depressed. And that's where I tell my students, I said, the one problem that I have as an individual artist is that my passion is also my addiction. Because I could just like literally sit at the computer for 15, 16 hours. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, man, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten in like 10 hours. You know, so not saying that everybody has to get to that level or everybody should be at that level, but that's where I'm at as an artist, as an instructor. I just love the world that I'm in. And it's funny when I'm working in a studio and I hear people complain about the AC is too cold or my chair isn't working or, you know, my stylist is not working properly. I'm just like, you know, I think about when I was in Kuwait or when I was in Saudi Arabia or when I had a gas mask on and it was like over 100 degrees. So I kind of just chuckle to myself. And there are times when I have to do a little bit of a reality check myself to keep myself humble and be appreciative to where I'm at. But yeah, it's just, you know, dive in head first and go for
absolutely. So you dove in. You got to Gnomon, you got in, you're kind of pinching yourself like, is this real? Like, is this even possible? Yeah. What was your time like going through the program at Gnomon?
It was intense. It's super intense, just being very honest. You know, I'm an honest guy. I will say it was super intense. I like to compare it to like going through like military boot camp. You know, you don't have people screaming at you. That's a good thing. There's no name calling by instructors. So there's some differences, but the intensity level, that's what I would compare it to. And that's where sometimes students have joked with me. They're like, man, you need to have like this class should be like boot camp. I'm like, well, I don't want to scare people off. You know, I've tried to I'm more for, you know, like inviting people in and directing them in a truthful and honest way rather than an in-your-face method. But that's how my time was. It was just an amazing, amazing time. I went through the 2-year program at the time because that's what was offered. And, you know, as you're going through it, it happens so quickly. And as you start looking back, you start looking at work that you did the previous term and the term before that, and you see that progression of your skills. It's not just like little moves. It's like leaps and bounds. And, you know, not only are the instructors there to, you know, help you as much as they can, but then you got the lab techs that are there to help you. You got, you know, fellow students in the grade above you that are always super supportive. And that's where what another thing I love about Gnomon is it literally is, it's a family. Never ever, you know, I had a problem and I asked somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I'm too busy. You know, it was like almost like crazy. They're like, yeah, man, just let me fix this and I'll help you out. And they come over and they sit right next to you and they're helping you out. Or you have a question in class and you ask, and, you know, teachers will come down from the desk and walk over to your computer and be like, yeah, well, what's the problem? Well, this and this. Or they'll have you upload your file and they put it on the big screen in class. And it's a family, you know, once you're in the Gnomon family. And, you know, I teach extension classes online, and I say, don't think just because you guys are extension students or just online students that you're not a part of the Gnomon family. Once you're in the Gnomon family, you're in the Gnomon family, as far as I'm concerned. And I think all of us at Gnomon feel that way. And that's where we help each other, we take care of each other, we keep in contact with each other, and we're there to support each other, you know, through the journeys of our life as artists. But yeah, it was intense. Looking back, you know, at graduation, it seemed like such a flash, but going through it, man, it was tough. But I
Yeah.
loved every minute of it. Unlike basic training, basic training, you get through it, you're like, man, I would never do that again. But at Gnomon, I'm like, I would do it all over again without question.
Yeah. It's funny. That is the response I pretty much get unequivocally across the board when I get to talk to our alums, is like, it was the most intense thing, but also the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Absolutely.
And I couldn't agree more. It's such a community. And, everybody also says, like, where I was kind of the one weird person in my group. And then I got to Gnomon and I realized I found my tribe.
We're all weird.
Everybody's heart beats the same way.
Exactly.
No, it's really awesome. So you're finishing up your time at Gnomon, and you're working on your demo reel, and you're kind of coming to that point, and you're getting ready to launch. What was that time like for you?
It was scary, because you're like, holy smokes, I have this whole arsenal of awesome skills I've just learned. Now what? Where am I going to get a job? What are they going to ask me to do? With homework assignments, you're like, okay, this is the homework assignment, and this is what I expect from you in a week, or by the end of the 10 weeks, this is what I want from you. Just that unknowing of going into a studio, and they're like, I want you to model a car, or I want you to model this. And you're like, oh man, I've never modeled, whatever it might be they're asking. So that was pretty scary, but that's where you have to think back on your journey through what you've gone through your time at Gnomon, and like, you know what? These people have been supportive. They've given me the skills that I know I will be able to succeed. And you got to have that confidence and take that step. You got the skills, you just got to take the steps. And that's where it's important to, it's just not all about skills. You have other things, you got your soft skills and stuff like that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the soft skills, because I think that's something that at least prospective students, maybe artists that are kind of at the beginning of their journey, so much focus can be on the technical skills. Like, I need to learn how to ABC. But when you talk to art directors and when you talk to senior artists in studios and talking about hiring, there's so much emphasis put on these soft skills. So what are some of the ways that you feel that your time at Gnomon prepared you to be in the industry beyond just your proficiencies in doing the art that you were doing?
Well, I think one thing that helped is that knowing that the instructors were working professionals, I think that kind of helped to break down that barrier that you might feel as like as a graduate moving into a studio, because you're like, you're feeling comfortable with talking to someone who is at this higher level than you, but you feel this comfort, you feel this bond between them. So I think that helped me with the interview process, where I didn't feel as nervous. Like, well, gee whiz, I took a class with Larry Wu. I took a class with Kevin Hudson. I took a class with this instructor and this instructor. And these people they're normal people. They're artists. They, you can talk to them. They understand you. You understand them. So that definitely helped in kind of breaking that ice. But other soft skills, it's like, and these are things that I know Gnomon covers in one of the classes. It's just like, well, what do you do when you're going to go in for an interview? And these are things that I try to throw this stuff in as much as I can, little tidbits here and there into my classes. But, well, what do you do when you got contacted by a studio? What do you do if you have a job interview? How early should you show up for the job interview? What, just so many things, like planning your time. And this is where I go back to my military thinking, like, okay, I have to be there at least 15 minutes early. You never know about traffic. If I get there early, I walk around the area, I get comfortable with my environment, step in the door 15 minutes early, introduce myself. If I have to sit in the lobby, once again, you're soaking it all in. You're getting more and more comfortable with the environment. But just things like that, I think, are skills that I think people need to, feel more comfortable with or practice. Like they talk about doing elevator pitches in one of the classes at Gnomon, just feeling comfortable with, like, if I see Adam, it's like, hi, Adam, oh man, you guys did an awesome job on, name a project that, Adam worked on, it's, such an honor to meet you. I think your work is amazing. I follow you on ArtStation. I follow you on LinkedIn. the progression. You don't want to sound like a stalker either, though, right? So there's a fine line of being a stalker and a fan.
I know what restaurant you really like to eat at. And
exactly. I know you're gluten intolerant.
Yeah.
Those type of things you don't want to, expose yourself as a stalker, but being comfortable with talking to people. So communication skills in general, right? Yeah. How do you explain what problem that you're having with your homework to your instructor so that they can help you out? So communication skills in general. But I think that pretty much answered the question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's there's that old adage of like, be careful, don't meet your heroes. But I don't know, at least so far in my experience in the art world, it's a wonderful experience to meet some people you admire because they're so generous and so helpful.
Yeah. And next thing you know, you're friends with these people. You're like, wow, I'm friends with this guy who I used to watch his movies, before I even thought about going to school. And it's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy, unreal world. Once you're into the world, once you get, that first job, that's what I tell students also. Once you get that first job, it's easier to get your second job, your third job. And then it starts the domino. Yes. And time passes so quickly.
I'm just going to get something set up really quick. Before I'm going to do a screen share, but I just need to get my screen ready because I wanted to put up some of the work that you've done. I know that you sent us a few pieces. Just making sure I get this done properly. I want to switch monitors.
And like Adam said, you guys have questions, please feel free to ask
Absolutely.
questions.
That's right. In fact,
I like questions. That's where, people are hesitant to ask questions sometimes.
I've got a question for you, James. It's just come in that I can bring that up while I get this set up.
Sure.
So this is from Feather XOX. When would be the best time to start applying for jobs? Already when we're at school with an unfinished demo, or when it's finished? See you tomorrow in class.
Well, first off, thank you. I'll see you in class tomorrow. But when is a good time to apply? Well, I think the main thing is I got a couple thoughts, so if you guys don't mind, bear with me here. So obviously you want your skill level to be up to something that is going to catch the studio's eyes, right? You have to have that. There has to be a certain project that's going to catch someone's eye. So there has to be something there. I'll just talk about myself. I don't think there's like a certain time. I just think it's don't hold back or don't pass up on missed opportunities. So my introduction into working professionally as an artist, I was still in school, and I talked about it with Gnomon, and I said, I've got this amazing opportunity, and they're like, well, we really don't recommend it because, as I said, the course is so intense, and I just knew that I had an opportunity I could not pass up on. Mm-hmm. And did I think I was ready for that position? I was like, man, they must have seen something in me. They've got confidence in me. Maybe I need to have a little more confidence in myself. And I was like, it's too good to pass up. Next thing I know, I'm working on Iron Man 2. I'm like, right. This is awesome. Yeah. So my experience was a little bit different than what some people's and what I thought I would have planned for my own career. Mm-hmm. My own career, I thought I'd finish Gnomon. I'd, try to hopefully dabble in some commercial work and maybe do some TV work and then eventually get to films and then kind of branch out and see what is after that. And I just kind of just dove headfirst into film, and then I went to TV, and then I jumped into commercials. I did it a little bit backwards, but I don't think there's a specific time, but I think that's where getting good, honest feedback on your work is so important. If you know professional artists who can be real with you and who can look at your current work that you have and you ask them, what do you think about my work? Do you think I'm ready to get a job? I've had some uncomfortable conversations with people and say, I don't think you're ready. Well, I have a 4-year degree. from this school, and I majored in modeling, and I'm like, I'm sorry, the quality of your work is just not up to entry level standards. And well, what do I do? And then that's when I'm like, well, there's a school called Gnomon. They'll teach you everything you need to know and be ready for an entry level position.
Well, and that's where the 2-year program which you went through is really good, because it's not the degree program. It's sort of like an opportunity as a finishing school for artists who maybe already have gone through a program already but need that extra step. I've got up on the screen here, I've got a few slides, and the first one here is obviously some of the places that you've worked at over the years. How would you like to do this? I can kind of scroll through what we've got, and you can talk about what's on screen, or you can even tell me, oh, I think I sent over such and such. Please go there.
We'll go with the flow. However you want to talk or click or whatever you want to do. Yeah,
for sure. All right. So, I'll just kind of go through the slides that I have. Maybe you can share with us a little bit about what we're looking at.
All right. So this one here, this was a really, really fun project. I'm a hard surface instructor at Gnomon. I teach hard surface 1, hard surface 2. So guess what, guys? I love hard surface. And I was asked by Jason from the Gnomon workshop if I'd be interested in doing a workshop. And I jumped on the opportunity. We all have like goals in life or this secret little bucket list. Well, I had this secret little bucket list. I'm like, man, it would be so awesome to be able to do a Gnomon workshop. Because thinking back to when I was hungry to learn, like I told you guys, it was that Gnomon DVD that was like, this is it. So for me to create a Gnomon workshop was something that was like, I was very honored for them to ask, but I was like, man, this is my time where hopefully I can spark some inspiration and teach some people as much as I possibly can in what I feel is a very short amount of time with that workshop. But man, I just had a blast with this project. It was, I was inspired by these vehicles. They're called rat rods. They really are just a Frankenstein creation. And it really sucked me in. And it was this, well, what if I do this? And what if I add that? And it just started to grow into this monster project for the workshop. And it was so fun to work on. So I got an amazing response from the artist community on Instagram, on Facebook. And next thing you know, people are like, hey, man, are you going to do a follow-up to this? Are you going to do a texturing workshop? And I was like, I'm all up for it. So I talked to Jason, and he's like, yeah, man, go for it. So this is a combo of the 2 workshops. So the first one is vehicle modeling for production. That's the modeling portion of it. And then I did a texturing version, which I think I sent you another picture of another version of that one. And it's just, if you guys are familiar with texturing, it's the process of virtually painting on a 3D object. And I think if you guys have seen it, you guys are familiar with this kind of overly grungy and dirty, and it looks really cool, and it's really fun to do this. But I wanted to also show there is the opposite side of that. You can do clean texturing, put slight imperfections into your work. And it's, to me, along with the modeling, I think everything in the world of CG, we're all trying to tell a story. So your modeling tells one story, and then the texturing should back up the modeling story, but then even expanding beyond that, and then the lighting should tell a story. So to me, it's all about the story. So the story with this one I was just trying to go with was an aggressive Mad Max inspired vehicle that, I put on there. I came up with the Rusty and Scorpion bell bonds. Like this guy's just out to get his goal. Whoever that person is, he's going to hunt them down and bring them in. Awesome. And it was a really, really fun project to work on.
Very cool. So I don't have these in any particular order, but I don't think this is a Gnomon workshop. What can you tell us about
this? Wasn't a Gnomon workshop. Yeah. This is from Moana. My experience, just to give you guys a little talk about Disney. My first entry into Disney was through the talent development program. So the talent development program, it's you can think of it as like a mentorship or an internship. You do get paid, and you submit your portfolio, and up to 2 years after graduating, they review your work, and if you're accepted in, you get Disneyed. You got mentors. They're trying to teach you the Disney way, and it was really, really, really cool. That was my first introduction to into getting into Disney, and I was able to go through that program, got picked up for Big Hero 6. After Big Hero 6, they're like, well, we don't have enough work to keep you, and off I went to find employment elsewhere, and then I got a call back. Hey, James, would you like to come back and join us for Moana? And I said, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And just on that topic there, something that you got to get used to, you got to get used to that, hey, sorry, we got to let you go type of a deal. That's when you hold your head up high, you worked hard, you walk around, you shake hands, be appreciative of your time there, and you make that bond. And that last impression, I think, is just as important as that first impression. Going through, like I worked with Larry Wu on this project. Hey, Larry, it was awesome to work with you on this. Hope to come back and work with you again. Just little comments like that ended off on a good note. So when they are looking for someone else again in the future, you get the call back. So
yeah,
I got called back for Moana. I was on the environment modeling team. I got to model Moana's boat and just a plethora of other things for the show. And it was really, really a cool opportunity. And I was really appreciative. Brian Heidemann was my lead on that. And he's like, hey, man, do you want to model Moana's boat? I was like, well, heck yeah, I do. Because Moana's boat, as far as like, if you're an environment artist, this is like a lead role. So I was super, super excited. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. Because you do get to see so much of the boat on film. But it does, they put that thing under the microscope, of course. I wouldn't expect anything less from Disney. So it's lots of tweaks. And, I talk about the ropes on Moana's boat. It took me 2 weeks to do ropes on Moana's boat. And that's just, you could go cookie cutter, all the ropes are the same. And, but it was, trying to, tell this story. And I went full deep into, like I was watching YouTube videos on how to tie latching and trying to understand that process and trying to make it look as real as possible. But yeah, 2 weeks on nothing but ropes on a boat. So yeah, that's intense.
That's a great point because, I'll talk to so many artists that'll say, you never know what you're going to learn as a part of the creative process, or you never know what some of the other skills that you've learned in your life will bring to the creative process when you're on your job. Yeah. That's where
I think my time at being in the military, I was in you can think about like a construction squadron. I was a plumber. So I needed to know and understand. I got to the point where I was a supervisor. So I need to know and understand what was needed of the job. Like how many feet of pipe, where's the pipe going to run? I need a cold water line, a hot water line. I need the sewer line. I need a vent. So I got to a point where I could mentally see all this stuff. And that definitely transferred over to CG really, really easily. But it's important to, like you say, those life events. And what one project you could learn something in one project, it can definitely come up and help you in another one. This was for a website that they hired the studio I worked for, and they wanted the furniture to look as real as possible. So what it was you could go to this website, you could say, I want this couch, but, I want to change the material. I don't want brass legs. I want it to be whatever wood. So it was kind of this like customization for furniture, but the objective was to make it look as real as possible. And they did give us scan data to start with. And if you guys are familiar with scan data, sometimes it's not the best to work with. So it was getting as much as I could from the scan data, but a lot of it was, taking it beyond that kind of muddy, melty scan data look to something that does look real. And one thing that I did do in this job interview here that I like to share with people is I went in for this job interview and I was talking with the lead and he says, well, tell me a little bit how you approach modeling. And I said, I think the first thing is I believe every model tells a story. And we go on and we talk. And then I got a call back and the production lady says, you know what? He really liked what you said in the interview. And I said, what did I say that caught his ear? And she said, when you said every model tells a story, because just as most people would say, it's just a couch, it's just a bed. He loved that you had this idea that every wrinkle, every little imperfection in this thing is a story of telling of what we're trying to sell. So it's things like that where you got to, kind of, share your thoughts, your feelings, your thought process of how you see things, and it can click. And that, that, and of course my skills got me the job.
I like that story, because you could go, well, it's just a couch, but I think isn't that the secret sauce? It's like you could bring your passion and creativity to pretty much anything you're given to do, to tell that story.
Yeah. And that's where you can learn something technically, but it's that given that extra little punch, that extra little lovely little bit of life to something, that just, it like you say, it goes from like feeling lifeless to feeling like there's a story. And to me, everything tells a story. This was an awesome commercial I got to work on at PsyOp. It was a hilarious commercial. All these pieces of cheese, they see this spread that is getting put on the bread, and they all think it's like a god, and they all come running out. Well, little did they know that one of those pieces of cheese was going to be, sacrificed on the piece of bread. But I got to model most of these pieces of cheese, the far majority of them. So it was just a fun project to work on. I love working on characters. I love working on environments, vehicles, trees, ropes, boats. I just love modeling. And that's what I tell people when I go in for an interview, because they see variety in my reel. And some people like to be very specific. I only like to do cars, or I only do spaceships. I only do weapons. And that's fine. And that's great. I like to do a variety of things. But I do find at times when you go into an interview with a variety on your reel, they'll say, well, which one do you like more? Do you like characters, or do you like hard surface? And I just tell them the truth. I say, you know what? I love modeling. And that's my passion. And I want to be a part of your guys' project. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a super, super fun project. This was for a Destiny 2 trailer. This was some ZBrush sculpting, a lot of ZBrush sculpting, a lot of experimentation of different techniques and brushes that would work well together. So there was a bit of back and forth between me and Prologue to get it the way that they wanted to. But then once I hit it, then I could run with it. So this is just like one chunk of seven different land masses that I used for that trailer.
And how large of a landmass does this represent?
I would say, let's go to like right in the middle. There's a crater right in the middle. Mm-hmm. A person definitely could stand inside of there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we're talking massive.
This is full on terrain.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And that's why I feel like I had to, different levels of detail, right? And that's something that they teach you at Gnomon. Don't put more detail than what's needed. If it's a distant shot, you're not going to spend much time on it. If it's something that's super close to the camera, you're going to need more. This was something they needed it to really be high res. So this one piece of landmass was 54 million polygons.
Wow.
In ZBrush. So it's super, super high res.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's so much of the simple foundational principles of art go into this. Somebody might think, well, it's just make a bunch of dirt or rocks or whatever. But I see unity and variety here. Contrast, areas of interest, areas of rest.
Silhouette, all these things. It just started off as a cube. That's all this started off as. So it's that process of, like, someone who may not be familiar with 3D, or maybe even a little bit about art in itself, it's trying to, as I teach my hard surface 1 people, it's seeing the basic forms. When I look at this, I see a cube. I don't see all craziness that's in there. Start with a cube and then work to, smaller details to smaller details to smaller details. And then when you look at the big picture, you're like, oh, wow, okay, this is all making sense.
Yeah. All right. Oh, here's the car again.
Right. Yeah. So this is the other version. This is, I like to call this car Nightfire. This one I was going for, a sleeker, street car, and a little bit more modern looking with, some modifications to the lights. And a few other things, but yeah, this was the clean version. And there are some imperfections in here, slight imperfections. And that's what I was going for with this one, showing the contrast between the different modelings or different texturing styles.
Yeah, and what essentially the base model is the same. Just
the base model is the same. There's slight differences. I put the leather top on. I got rid of the gun. I closed up the back. Changed out the headlights for something considerably more modern looking. Same tires, same rims, same pipes on the side. 95% of it's the same.
Yeah, what a great example of that storytelling you were talking about.
Yeah, so this tells a totally different story. And two, it's the environment also. So this was rendered inside of Keyshot. So it's the idea of trying to mix something in with a background that you can sell it as being, it's a cards in a garage. And those are things, that I think are important to do. If it isn't feeling like it's blending in with the background, people are going to be like, that's CG. Well, probably most people would say this is CG, but it's our goal to make it as least CG as possible. This was a personal project / example that I wanted to use for my digital sculpting class that I teach. So I also teach a intro to digital sculpting. You can think of it as like an intro to ZBrush class. But what I wanted to do, my primary goal with this one, not only for like a personal piece for my own portfolio, but was to show students who step into the class everything that we're going to be covering, from going from picking a concept to blocking to sculpting to texturing to lighting to rendering, like an A to Z of what you're going to learn in the class. And when people are trying to find something to pick for a portfolio piece, I think it's so important. You want to pick something that's going to stand out, something that, I personally, for myself, I prefer not to be one of 5,000 people doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. Pick something that I feel is going to stand out, where people will be like, I remember that Frankenstein character. That's James Schaaf. And I think that can help set me aside from everybody else and be rememberable. Because if you're not, you kind of fade into the gray. And, that's what I don't think is good for us as artists to do.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Okay. That looks like that's the, we'll just turn off my screen and share there for a second. It's the end of the slides. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, again, you've touched on this a little bit already, is, you're an instructor at Gnomon, and you teach some different classes. And, it's a rare opportunity that prospective students might be able to spend a significant amount of time with someone who could be an instructor that they would be with at a school. So what could a student expect? What is it like to be in class with you? How do you approach teaching modeling?
Well, first off, they've gone through an introduction to Maya class. So I do know that they have a basic understanding of how to use Maya. Okay. So that's important. I don't approach the class as like trying to baby step people. I know these people are investing their time and money in a class, and they're wanting to get the most they can out of it. So I'm an instructor. I'm not holding back any tips, tricks, or, magic, little spells. I'm straight day one. I'm like, this is what you guys need to know, and this is where we're going. That's how I am as an instructor in all my classes. Yeah. So they have to know a basic understanding of Maya, and then it's me teaching them hotkeys, proper setup of your Maya scene to benefit you as a modeler the best possible. And from there, it's pretty quick ramp up into trying to work up to something significant. Like we have one big project in the class I teach. We have one big project towards the end of the class. And what I try to do is I try to have that one piece where people can look back and say, holy smokes, over the course of 10 weeks, I was able to create this. And it gives them that piece where they feel like they've got that pride in, they know, what, I've got this and I can keep building upon this. And that's where Hard Surface 2 comes in. And then from there, that's when I say, because after I'm done with people with Hard Surface 1, Hard Surface 2, they're like, well, where do I go from here? I'm like, well, it would be awesome if you knew ZBrush. And then it's a move on to digital sculpting, which it's two different beasts.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the benefits too of, we have very much a tutorial culture today because there's so much that's available online.
Right.
And every tutorial is it's just its own little channel, right? But it's not necessarily linking out to other things. And I think it's one of the benefits of being a part of a community of artists who are also following a cohesive curriculum, building one thing on the other. It's a night and day difference going from just studying YouTube tutorials to like working with professionals who are building on each other's classes.
Well, and to build off of that too, we all can watch a YouTube video, but what's the experience of this person on YouTube? Are they teaching you industry standards? Or are they just teaching something that they're just regurgitating something from a video that they've watched? So I think there are some. There's a lot of great resources on YouTube, no doubt about it. But there are some that I just tell people, be cautious what's out there.
Yeah.
But going along with that, if you're just watching YouTube videos, you can learn. But to me, what I really try to help and pride myself on as an instructor, it's that feedback, the critiques of that student's work. If you're watching a YouTube video, that's it. That's all you got. You're like, could I have made this look better? I've got a problem. How can I fix it? So as an instructor, that's where, every class, it's lecture and demo time, and it's also reviews. So I review everybody's work in class. Okay, this is good, but it could look better. Or here's another way of doing it that I think would be faster and a better way. And I'm just not saying that just to, say, hey, look at me. This is how I do it. This is me basing all of my guidance as an instructor off of over 10 years in the industry.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, you mentioned critique. And I think that's for students that aren't used to that kind of a process, especially an academic and professional critique, or maybe they've had a really bad experience from a very destructive critique. So they're very scared of, critique sounds so scary. But can you talk to us a little bit about why that's so important and what it's like to receive a critique in the context of your class?
Yeah, for sure. So in our first in Hard Surface 1, I start off basics. It's all about the basics. I need to make sure they understand just the super fundamentals, the fundamental tools, and then building up from there. So the first critique is we all are going to make a dice. We're going to make a dice. We're going to be learning some foundational things. And the critique process is and also to avoid errors. Like, did you accidentally double extrude? What is a double extrusion? What's wrong with it? How do you fix it? So an extrusion is taking a surface and just basically extending it out or pushing it in. So it's in that critique where you can start to, like I also talk about retopology. So I'm like, okay, guys, this is your introduction to retopology. Go for it. And they venture out on their own. I don't want to feel like students, I'm holding their hand through a learning process. I'm there to support them. If they can't get over an obstacle, that's where I grab them by the pants and I throw them over. I get them over that obstacle and I let them to keep moving forward. Being there as, guidance, because like, we talked about, anybody can watch a YouTube video, but I'm there to help you through this process. So when they stumble, that's where I'm guiding them, say, well, you know what, retopology can be a little bit tricky. Here's my theories behind retopology, and this is the way I approach it. And like I said, I let them go, and I want them to make errors. I want them to have problems. And I'll ask people, well, how long did it take you to do this? I spent like 15 hours on this. And okay, well, 15 hours is a long time. And, we got some problems here and there. And, maybe they use too much topology. It's just too much there. So, okay, we could cut that back and do a lot more with less.
Sure.
And save you hours and hours of time. So it's things like that, I think, that are super helpful, because as I tell my students, my two primary goals in class are to help you become faster and help you become better. Because to me, that's the combo right there, right? If you're fast and you're good, you should feel confident in asking for more money, right?
Yes.
We all have financial obligations. We all want to do fun things in life, like buy the PS5 or whatever it might be, right? So you want to be fast, you want to be good, and you want to feel confident in asking for whatever money that you feel like you're asking for. So time is super, super important. There's always deadlines, right? You're always going to have to get something done as quickly as possible. So that's a other critique that I'm giving them. And when I do demos in class, I try to do as much demoing as I can, and then asking them, okay, well, I demoed this in an hour and a half. How long did it take you guys to do this demo? It took me like 6 hours. Okay, well, you're following along, and you're taking notes, and it's going to take you some more time. And then just over the course of the class, that those numbers of how long something takes is getting less and less and less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's when you've received a bad critique, so to speak, like kind of not a very helpful one, not one coming from somebody that maybe knows what they're talking about, that can be really destructive. But when you receive good critiques, when you're in a safe environment where you're being given the opportunity to, for lack of a better term, fail, but then be told why you did and how you can do it better next time.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's like, that's more like a power up. That's like,
oh, for sure.
Getting the mushroom in Super Mario Brothers, because now you're getting to grow more quickly. Yeah.
And two, it's, I think in giving critiques, there's a proper way. Like, and you were saying, there's bad critiques. Mm-hmm. Bad critiques are when someone's just bashing you. Right. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And then that's it. Okay, let's move on to the next student. That, to me, is not the best learning environment. The best learning environment is, this is wrong. This is how we can correct it. Or this is how it can be better. Next time, try this technique rather than what you did here. So that's where I say that I approach my classes not as a military drill instructor, where I'm not, like, this is garbage, delete, delete, delete.
Right.
I'm not. That's not the environment for learning that I think is going to help people build up their confidence, right? Because that step into the industry is intimidating. I'm trying to help build up that confidence.
Yes. Yeah, no, and that same kind of confidence you talked about when you graduated, that you felt more confident being able to approach a studio and ask for a job.
Exactly.
Well, we're getting into the time where we could take some questions, and we've got a few questions that have queued up for us from the chat. And guys, please feel free to keep typing your questions in for James. Or if you have questions about Gnomon, you can also ask Xander, who is our advisor, who's moderating the chat. But let's see here. One of the first ones we've got here is, what would you suggest to high school students who are interested in the industry?
Ooh, high school. Boy, it's a beautiful time, right? I graduated in 1990, guys. There were no computers in our school. So you guys now, this is the time, you guys are probably like, some schools might even be like, hey, we're going to learn Maya. So it's, trying to at least grab some fundamentals. Of course, take those, the core foundation classes of art, perspective drawing, life drawing, anatomy drawing. There's a lot of things as a high school student that you have plenty of things that you can do to try to become the best artist that you can be at that time in your life. But, there's a lot of other great resources out there. Gnomon Workshop, to mention that. You've got a lot of different resources that are out there online. So that's where, I'm like, man, am I jealous of students now? High school students, like, this is the time to be alive. You got all these amazing programs out there. They're making it faster and easier to learn. And, it's just a good time to be a high school student. And you got, Gnomon offers the summer program, or, if you're able to come out to Gnomon and, go through the summer program, what an experience. My niece was able to go through it. She thought it was amazing. She's like, I can't believe this. I learned so much. So it's really, really a cool opportunity. And you get to come out here and you're seeing the school. You're meeting with, instructors. They have guest speakers that come in. I was, one of them last year. And, if you guys come out, by all means, feel free to reach out to me, guys. I try to make myself accessible. If you guys come out here for a Gnomon High School, summer term, let me know. I'd love to come out and meet you guys.
Yeah, and for those of you who are curious, what James is talking about is our high school summer camp. Unfortunately, that's not something that we've been able to do during quarantine, obviously. But definitely follow us on social media to learn more about when opportunities for high school students are going to be made available again. But yeah, I mean, that's how I got the chance to meet you, James. And I was so inspired by your story when you came and shared with a room full of like 100 high school students who are all there, to listen to you, and then the kind of stuff that you've gotten to work on. Let's see here. We've got another question. And it's an opportunity, I think, as an instructor to talk a little bit about the online experience at Gnomon, because we actually built a custom online platform for ourselves before the pandemic hit. This was tailor-made for our courses, for the ones that were being offered online. And we've got a viewer who's kind of wondering, is it worthwhile to start taking classes online, or should I wait, or and maybe give you an opportunity to weigh in on what that experience has been like for you with your students.
Yeah, I've been teaching online classes for, I think, over 7 years now. So to me, there is no different. I teach digital sculpting on campus when, pre-quarantine. So I know the experience of being an online instructor and an on-campus instructor. And to me, they're the same. I know we at Gnomon, there should be no difference in those classes. Some people might think, oh, it's probably a watered down version, and it's not. It's the same experience. I think there's great benefits to online learning. You could be anywhere in the world. I've had students from everywhere in the world over the past 7 years. And it's been an amazing opportunity as an instructor to touch all these different people, these artists, that trying to help them to better themselves. And I've had students, they'll say, well, I'm wanting to get into the Gnomon program, and I live in Israel, and I want to take your class, and hopefully I can submit my portfolio. So it's a good stepping point, stepping stone to getting into the program, I think. Mm-hmm. And like I did, that's what I did. I wanted to test the waters. I'm like, I'm going to take a class or two and see if this is really for me. And I say it's a great deal. And a quarantine, being on lockdown, I'm telling my students now in quarantine, I'm just like, this is the time, guys. This is the time for you to. What else are you going to do? You're going to play video games, and you're going to what? You're going to take an online class. You're going to better your skills. I shouldn't have any excuses. Why are you only spending 3 hours on homework? You need to be dedicating yourself.
Sure.
This is time for all of us to grow.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a bunch of people on social media, like, I learned how to make bread, or I've started to cook again, or I've started to do this. I'm
Absolutely.
Like, that's it. This is time for personal growth.
Yeah.
So now is the best time.
Quarantine's been a great opportunity for me. I've been taking some deep dives into ZBrush.
There you go.
You've got the hours you can put in. And granted, there's a uniqueness to, of course, being in person and being on campus at Gnomon. Right. Some of the trade-off is, even with our full-time programs, and I'll share a little bit more about this later, guys, but you've got the opportunity to start the Bachelor of Fine Arts program or the 2-year certificate program while not having to move to Los Angeles. You can start it distanced and get into some of those first courses. And then when campus opens up, then you can move out and enter into the program. So it kind of gives, you don't have to worry about moving and all that stuff right away. And there's a lot of students that have chosen to do that during the pandemic because they realized that just kind of, it helps the process. But I'll share more about that later.
Okay. And then just one last thing about online classes is I really I want to keep it like we were all together. So I encourage my students, hey guys, let's all turn on our cameras. I can look up to my other screen. I see, 15 students and I'm there. I see them. They see me. I keep my camera on all the time. Now, I want it to be as an interactive experience as possible. And I think some people think that online experiences, there's that disconnect. This person is on the other side of the world. I'm over here. No way. It's just technology now. We're all in the same place. We're just on a screen.
I'm so glad you said that, James, because a lot of people like to know about class sizes, and granted, when you're in a physical lab, you have a limitation of space, but Gnomon's very intentional about our class sizes because we want to make sure that the students have access one-on-one with the instructor to be able to raise questions and those kind of things. And I know that that's a carryover into the online experience. Just because we're online doesn't mean that we want to have one class with 100 people, who don't have the opportunity to ask questions and that sort of a thing.
And I do think that's the perfect balance. I was just talking about this with a friend. It's that, 15 students max, 3 hours of class time, perfect combo right there. To me, that's the perfect combo. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's see here. Somebody's asking about time organization. So as a working professional, how do you organize your time to achieve good work with an exact deadline?
Well, no sleep. No, I'm just kidding. That's a good question. And I'm asked that quite often because I teach multiple classes. I work full time and I try to do freelance whenever it comes my way. I'm a busy guy, and time management is hugely, hugely important. I run my life off of the alarms on my phone. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. When an alarm goes off, I look at it and I'll say, oh, got to prepare for hard surface 2, or got to prepare for this, or I have to prepare for that. And giving myself enough time that I know, okay, I need to shift gears from this over to that. So time management is vital. There's an awesome program out there called Toggle. I don't know if you've heard of it, Adam.
I haven't heard of that one, no.
TOGGL. It's an app that you can download, and it's just a timekeeper. So you can start to know when you're fudging your numbers, right? Like, well, I only spent 2 hours on my self-improvement of whatever it might be. And then you realize, wow, over the course of a week, I only spent about 6 hours. I could have spent probably 15 hours this week. So yeah, time management is important. And I think, once again, this is where I think military has really, really helped me, is knowing that at this time, this is supposed to happen. And it's just because there's order in the military, and I've carried that over with me, and I try to, express that to my students.
Yeah.
So yeah, time management it's vital. You can't, I don't think you can not be as successful as you want to be in whatever it might be if you don't have a good handle on time management. And I'm not perfect. I'm still trying to, move the puzzle pieces around and try to make it the best it can be for me and the life that I have.
I think especially when you're doing something creative as well, when you know that you've already thought through how you're going to use your day, and you've got a reminder, that frees you up to immerse yourself in whatever you're currently doing. And
and what I do too is I'm a little bit of a maximize my time. So like when I wake up in the morning, I get in my car, I have to drive 45 minutes to Disney. What am I doing before I get to Disney? I'm mentally preparing myself. What am I going to have to work on today? Instead of sitting in traffic like a zombie, I'm like, okay, what am I going to have to do today? Okay, when I get to work, I'm going to get this, and I take care of these notes that they gave me. So I'm thinking about what I'm having to do, mentally preparing myself. If I'm not mentally preparing myself, what am I doing? I'm looking at cars around me. I'm looking at cars. I'm looking at their designs. I'm looking at their shapes, thinking about if I had to model it, how could I model that? If it's a headlight or a tail light or whatever it might be. So trying to maximize my brain power as much as possible. Not everybody needs to do that. Not everybody should do that. But that's how I like to spend my time.
Yeah. So let's see. Raphael in the chat is asking, have you ever used Fusion 360 for hard surface modeling?
I have not. There are some programs out there I've never used before. Fusion 360, I've never used Rhino. I've never used 3D Studio Max, which might be a shock to some. So yeah, there's programs out there I've never used before. I'm not saying that those programs are bad and you don't need to learn them. If I did have a job opportunity I was really, really interested in going towards, I would invest my time to learning those other programs. And that's where we as artists, we need to be flexible with our learning. Never stop learning. There's always something to learn, another program. There's always like, boop, this next software pops up and you're like, oh man, this is it. Now I'm going to have to invest my time in learning this. Yeah. So yeah, it's I've never used it before, but it does look amazing.
Well, and you mentioned it earlier in our conversation about your time at Gnomon, and that's that, Gnomon's not just a class at Gnomon is not a software tutorial. Even though we're teaching Maya because that is the industry standard, we're always growing and evolving with the industry. But when you learn hard surface modeling, for example, with you, James, you're not just learning how to use one software, you're learning the principles of.
Absolutely.
So that you could go to a different software and learn how to use those tools, but still achieve the same results.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got another question. How do you manage the balance between work and your relationships? You know, your kind of your work-life balance. Every time you tell me, let's see, every time you tell me what loads you have to do, I imagine it being difficult to make room for friends and relationships.
Well, someone just got my Achilles heel right there. That's my weak spot there, guys. I spread myself so thin. I keep so busy. I don't have a lot of social life. I'm married. I've been married this month. It will be 16 years.
Oh, congrats.
My wife is very, very supportive of what I do. Our times that we get to spend together are usually late in the evenings, and that's my life. So that's something where I know I need to work on myself. So there's always room for improvements. I know I need to work on better balance. But how do I balance that? It's just knowing that I need to step away from the computer. As I said earlier, it's a bit of an addiction, right? I need to say, okay, that's it. I got to walk away.
Right.
Get to a good finishing spot and then just walk away. My wife will be like, dinner's ready. And I'll be like, okay, I'll be down in 5 minutes. And like 30 minutes later, she's like, dinner's ready. Yeah, I said I'd be right down. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh no, dinner's cold. This isn't going to be good. So it's a battle for me. It's a battle.
I'm laughing out of familiarity, but I think one of the important things that I'm hearing you say is just be honest with yourself about where you need to grow. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Let's see. Can you tell us the best way to build your portfolio after finishing a particular class? So you've learned a bunch of new skills. Translating those skills to portfolio. What would you say about that?
Well, I think different instructors probably would have different kind of plans for the course. Along with finishing up a project, it just doesn't end just the model. I mean, there's presentation, right? The presentation of your finished work. You know, you want it to look as appealing as possible. I don't really have anything more than that. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, just can you tell us the best way to build your portfolio after finishing classes?
I would say just move on to another project. Move on into something else, something meatier, more involved, more opportunities of showing your skills. And you finish that one, you move on to your next one, and your next one. And then instead of having only one project for a portfolio, then you have two, then you have three, then you have four. Then you're like, man, now I got to get rid of something. So you get rid of the one that is the least visually interesting, or the one you think that studio that you're applying for wouldn't want to see.
Yeah, and don't stop. Like what I hear you saying is, don't stop using the skills you just learned for the next piece and the next piece. So don't just turn it into a one-off. Well, now I got my portfolio piece for that class. Yeah. As
we all know, we get rusty. You start getting slow. Oh, how did I do that? And you got to keep that ball moving forward.
Yeah. We've got a great question from someone asking about transitions. Okay. I'm switching careers from graphic design. Do you have any advice for transitioning?
Well, I have two major transitions in my life. I went from military to CG. I went from I got into Gnomon when I was in my 30s. So there was a big age transition there. Do I want to, being 30-something years old, do I want to, I was probably like late 20s-ish when I just made my decision. But yeah, there was that, I'm going to be the old guy in school, one of those type of things. So transitioning from like computer graphics into the world of CG, I think there's a lot of skills that are going to be able to cross over. So I think it should be pretty smooth, and I would say jump into it with a lot of confidence. And it might just be you just have to get this idea of 3D, because graphic, at least I think of graphic arts as being very flat, very two-dimensional. You obviously have to understand about perspective and all this, but like when you're modeling, you have to make something look good from every single angle. And there is that time has to be spent of trying to imagine. When you get a concept, you have to spend that time studying that concept and imagining what this thing looks like from the back view, from the top three-quarter, and all these different angles. So I think it's just that person should already have that mindset of that inner process that would work well.
Yeah. And then another viewer is asking, is there anything that you would do more, you wish you had done more when you were at Gnomon?
Spend time with my fellow classmates,
Mm.
to be honest with you, because I was working, like I said, I was working and I was going to school at the same time, and I was married, so I knew, I was like, man, my wife, boy, is she putting up with me? I'm burning the candle at both ends. I need to make sure, I'm showing her attention and spending time with her. And, if it's like the class is like, hey, we're going bowling tonight, I'm like, sorry, guys, I got to go home. I want to spend time with my wife. So it was times like that, or I needed to make sure I was spending time on my homework to try to, with that balance of working and going to school at the same time. So it was, spending time with the students, because you're making those so important connections while you're in school.
Yeah.
Those people that I went through with at Gnomon, my graduating class, the people above me, some of the people below me, I still keep a lot of them. It's those contacts that are so vital, because when you're looking for that next job, you reach out to them. Hey, I'm wrapping up at the studio. Are you guys hiring over where you're working? Yeah, actually we are. It's those type of networking opportunities that are super, super important.
Yeah. So let's see, someone's wanting to know if you could talk a little bit about, what the career path is like for a 3D modeler, in the sense of, getting started, but then where that can take you. I mean, do you see yourself, they wanted to know, do you see yourself doing what you're doing now 10 years from now, or is there an evolutionary path to what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, or just in general, usually you're going to start off in like an entry-level position. And being an entry-level position, you're not going to be getting the main characters or the main environments and the main props. You're gonna, start off at the bottom, and with learning and understanding the pipeline that are different studios, you start to move up, and they start to give you more complex projects, and you work up through that way, and then you eventually can become like a lead, and then you could be a modeling supervisor, and go from there. As far as my progression, where like I see myself in 10 years, I still want to be modeling. I still want to be sculpting. I still want to be an instructor. So I don't see myself as being much different. I think I'll have much more knowledge of different things, like more knowledge of an Unreal, keeping up with all the updates in ZBrush and Substance Painter. And there's so much more that is ahead of me that I need to keep up with and adding to, that I'll just be a better artist in 10 years of where I'm at. But I love being a modeler, and I love being an instructor, so I wouldn't want to change that. And that's where some people, once you do get into that lead position or that supervisory position, what's unfortunate, and I hear this from friends that I know have moved into those positions, where then you're pulled back from that creative part, right? I had a role where I was like that, and I was more of a lead role, and I was just reviewing work day in, day out. Over 95% of my time when I was at the studio, I was just reviewing work. And it was a good opportunity, but man, I missed that creative part, that modeling part. So I enjoy being, being in the trenches,
Yeah.
When I was in the military, when I became a supervisor, I was going out on calls with the guys. I wasn't like, all right, guys, got a backed up toilet over there. Go ahead and head out and take care of that. I'd be like, hey guys, let's go fix this toilet. Okay, who's going to do it? We'd do paper, scissors, rock. And if I lost, I'd go in there and I'd plunge that toilet or do whatever needed to be done. I like getting dirty. I like, like some people are like, oh, I hate retopology. Oh, I hate doing UVs. I'm the weirdo in the bunch. I love doing both of those things. And sometimes those things, people who start moving up, they're like, oh, let's give that stuff to the new guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I try to teach those skills to my students. Like, this is the stuff. These are opportunities that are going to come your way. So, but for me, I'm like, I'll UV, I'll retopologize, even with over 10 years experience. I'm like, it's all good to me. I'm a happy camper.
That's a great place to be in too. And I'm also hearing, just know what you want. know what you like to do and know what you want to do, because it's probably more than one way that a career path can develop. Let's see here. And then we've had a couple more questions come in since we've been talking. Is it hard for someone with no background or experience in 3D modeling to use a 3D modeling program or to create 3D printed objects? I guess they've got a question kind of about, if they're wanting to get into this, what might be a good place to start in terms of ease of use?
Well, ease of use. Well, usually at that point in your life, you probably aren't wanting to spend a lot of money, because it sounds like it's a little bit of an experimental stage. Is this something I want to get into? That's where you could download the student version of Maya. Dabble, see if this might be something. It might be scary when you first open it, but with watching things and kind of getting your feet wet, you should know if that's something that's there for you. There's other applications out there. There's Blender that's for free. Just watching videos, you can see if this is something that interests you. But as far as a start, that's a big jump, going from not modeling at all to modeling to doing 3D printing, because there's some steps that need to happen to get to that end goal. So there would be some learning between there, and I would just say it would be baby steps. Learn the basics first, with the ultimate goal of 3D printing in mind, but know the proper ways of doing things. Yeah,
absolutely. We've got time for about one more question, and I've got a question here that I think is good to end on. And granted, everything that we create is kind of like our child. So what favorite child do you have? But is there a favorite or a precious memory or project that you've had in your tenure so far as a 3D modeler?
Ooh, tough one. Yeah, I've been asked that question before, and I always just stumble upon trying to come up with a 100, yep, it's this project.
All right.
Because there's a lot that goes into it. It's what did I model? But I would have to say it's probably Moana. And it was just an amazing film. I mean, the modeling to the lighting to the animation, just everything, that the whole finished product was just really amazing thing. It was just an amazing team that I was on. There was a lot of overtime, so there was a lot of bonding after hours, and just a really great time. But I'd say it was probably Moana.
Yeah.
With everything else is close seconds after.
Absolutely.
That.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely, of course.
Just one more thing is, we might all have different obstacles we have and what we feel we have in front of us, whether it might be, your finances or your self-doubt or maybe medical conditions, whatever it might be. Once again, it doesn't hurt to try. I have a neurological disorder where my hands shake quite a bit and my head shakes sometimes. And I could very easily just be like, well, I guess that means I shouldn't model, or, this is now the end of my career, because as I've gotten older, it has gotten worse. But I don't let that stop me. It's just something where I feel like I know what I need to do to, do the best I still can do at my job. So, I just want to let people know that, don't let things stand in your way. There's always ways to become better at what you dream to become better at.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, James.
Sure.
That's so important, because I think everybody has at least something, right? Everybody has some obstacle they've got to overcome. And sometimes it's a great exercise in creativity, just overcoming the obstacle.
Yep.
For sure. Well, James, thank you so much for giving the time today.
Oh, of course.
Join us.
I could talk, 2 more hours, but awesome. I got work I got to get back to.
Of course. Yeah. But thank you for your candidness. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Sure. I think, just as I was the first time I got to hear your story, I think there's a lot of folks out there that are inspired to say, it's definitely possible to pursue what you really want to do. So thanks for sharing with us.
Yep. All I got to do is try. You got to try, guys. Thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. So as we transition, I'm going to be taking just a little bit of time now to share about Gnomon and how we are training artists for careers in 3D modeling, animation, VFX, basically the entire digital production pipeline. So I'm going to get a monitor share set up for this presentation real quick. And let's see, we've got that up. Just going to move a couple things off screen so we can share this, do this screen share. There we go. Okay, that should be ready to put up. I'm just going to grab a quick sip of water while my colleague puts the screen share up. All right, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with Gnomon, essentially, we are an art school in Hollywood that specializes in training artists for careers in visual effects, games, and animation. And we started back in 1997. We were actually started by an industry artist by the name of Alex Alvarez. And he started out Gnomon as a place where artists in the industry could come and train in these things. And because that was a new development at the time, and there were very few opportunities for artists to train in what Gnomon specializes in, it quickly blew up and had such high demand that we rapidly grew into being a full-blown college. We've won a lot of awards over the years. You can see many of them up here on the screen. And I won't go through all of them individually, but what you're seeing, for example, is ranking #1 worldwide for VFX and animation, ranking #1 in the US for VFX games and animation, which is our entire curriculum. We've won School of the Year a few times in top international competitions. So all of that background, just to tell you, we've been around for over 2 decades, and we are very good at what we do. And because of that, we have had alumni, graduates who've gone on to work on some of the most amazing projects out there. So here's just a sampling of some recent films and games that you might recognize. That every one of these has had a Gnomon alumni contribute to that project through what they learned to do at Gnomon. And these are many of the studios you might be familiar with who are regularly hiring Gnomon graduates. And it's important to note that, even last year, we had a 97% industry placement rate. The year before that, 2018, 100%. And what that means is that is the percentage of graduates from our full-time program who are finding a job in studio within 6 months of finishing our program. So this is really important to us. This is a massive part of our mission. We are not interested in just teaching you skills and then saying, now go figure out how to make a career out of that. We put our emphasis on, we are training you to be able to start the career that you are wanting to do. And as a result, we have very, very high placement rates for our graduates. So moving forward, I want to talk about what, artists are learning. What James learned when he was at Gnomon, what all these graduates that are going out in the industry working on amazing stuff are learning. And in a basic term, sort of a catch-all term, it's called digital production. Now, what this is referring to are the following disciplines and skill sets. These are things like computer-based visual effects, character and creature design, digital sculpting, character and creature animation, environment design, lighting and rendering, matte painting and compositing, game asset creation, game engines, production workflows, and world building. Now, some of these skills might be familiar terms for you, some of them might not be, but every one of them translate into the following careers that are available in digital production. And this is a wide range of different types of positions in the production pipeline. So it's important to note that there are different roles that are great fits for different kinds of people and different kinds of artists, depending on what you're really passionate about. So we're going to look at take a closer look at just 4 of these. They're all kind of a bit different from each other, starting out with character artists. Now, a character artist does exactly what the name of the position implies. They are responsible for creating that final 3D version of a character or creature that's going to be appearing on screen, whether it is a film or television program or in a game that our audience is playing. Now, this artist is using a piece of software called ZBrush. This is one of the pieces of software that is used in the classes that James teaches. And it is essentially allowing an artist to use traditional sculpting techniques, just like you would with clay, but instead with virtual 3D clay. And so it makes it an ideal modeling software for creating anything that is organic in shape or in nature, as you can see here in this creature that's being modeled. Next up are effects artists. Now, effects artists are doing a wide range of things, and a big part of that is they are creating animation for the types of sequences that we're seeing here on the screen. These are going to be a lot more complex with more moving parts, sometimes millions upon millions of moving particles. So creating these sorts of animations is not going to be able to be done traditionally like you would for animating an individual character. Instead, effects artists are actually using specialized software that has simulations, essentially engines encoded into the software that can drive simulations for real-world physics. Whether that's moving debris, the influence of gravity on it, a very complex mission, like we've got this space station and it's of a particular mass and it's orbiting the Earth under certain gravitational conditions at a certain speed. So when that gets hit by something, how is it going to break up? And so these are the artists that have to figure out how to creatively solve that problem. How do we make that happen? And so it's very complex, but it's also, it's kind of that mad scientist, if you will, who's constantly looking at the world around them and figuring out how things happen and what they look like when they happen, and then being able to do that wizardry of driving animation through a simulation to make it look totally real and completely believable. And, really, it goes without saying that the VFX that are happening in film and television production today are very awe-inspiring. So this is a fantastic position to be in. Next up, we're going to go almost towards the very end of the production pipeline. And that is where the compositor lives. What a compositor does is exactly what you're seeing on the screen here. They start out with film footage in front of a green screen with actors, and then they use that negative space created by the green screen to insert the rest of an environment or a scene. So for example, here, the tennis courts in background are 3D models. The tennis players are actors in front of green screens. You've got 3D models for buildings and props in the foreground. Additional actors are inserted. Lighting and texturing is done, and it's all brought together into a scene like this. And this is what is known as an establishing shot in film and television. And it's really the director's way of letting the audience know where the story is taking place. And, instead of the director having to go out and find that exact location somewhere in the real world and bring in a film crew and purchase insurance to film there and hire actors and so forth, instead, they can save a lot of money and time by going to a VFX studio and saying, hey, this is the kind of shot that I need. And so all of the modelers and animators and so forth, they go together and start making the individual pieces. But the compositor is the artist that all of those assets come to, and they're the one that weaves it all together to make it look believable and cohesive. And honestly, guys, a lot of these establishing shots that are happening in production today, I know VFX supervisors that will say, it's hard for me to tell anymore whether it was done with CG or whether it was a real world location being filmed. And that's because the compositors are doing such an amazing job. All right, so we're going to go from the end of the pipeline all the way to the beginning. And what this step in the process is pre-visualization. And the previs artist is an artist that is going to be working with more simplified 3D models and simpler forms of animation that they can iterate very quickly. And this is for the purpose of essentially making a moving storyboard. So instead of a traditional storyboard, which is just going to be a static 2D image drawn sequentially, kind of like a comic book to explain step by step what's happening in a scene, now previs artists can create entire animation sequences like you're seeing here, and they can create it very quickly and then adjust it very quickly on the fly, which gives a lot of flexibility for these artists to work very closely with the director and with the cinematographer, because what they're trying to accomplish is they're kind of creating a thumbnail of the entire film to know what is going to be happening in a sequence, how the camera is going to be moving and panning for that sequence, where the actors are going to be, where the VFX elements are going to be, and so forth. And then that animation is then passed further on down the pipeline, so everybody is working from the same common vision moving forward. So if you're interested in 3D models, you're interested in animation, but you also just love being a storyteller and getting the big picture across, this could be a great position for you in the digital production pipeline. All right. So with just 4 of the many different types of positions and careers available that we saw on the screen earlier, let's talk about how Gnomon is training artists for these careers. So these are our academic offerings. As you can see on the screen here in the upper left-hand corner is our Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. This is a full-time 4-year college degree program in digital production. Just next to it, to the right, is our certificate program. This is the one we were talking about with James, which is essentially a 2-year program. It is not a degree program, but it is accredited, and it's typically a little bit more akin to higher education. So often we'll have graduates of other art programs come to something like a certificate program and use Gnomon as a finishing school just to get in and get that kind of 2 years intensive Navy SEALs training in digital production. The bottom row here, we've got our Foundation in Art and Design, which essentially is a portfolio building course at Gnomon. No portfolio is therefore required to enter that course. It's something you enroll in with admissions, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. And then next to that, you'll see we also are offering individual courses. Well over 70 of the courses that are a part of our programs at Gnomon are also taught individually, a la carte, and that's something that you can just simply take a course without having to apply and submit a portfolio and start learning, through a one-off course, some of the skill sets that we're teaching at Gnomon. So moving forward, let's take a closer look at our main academic offering, and that's our Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. As I mentioned, this is fully accredited. It is full-time on our campus. A little caveat there, obviously, because we're under social distancing. Our physical campus is not open, but as we discussed earlier with James, our Bachelor of Fine Arts degree program can be started online now. And we have everything up and running to be able to offer you the same kind of experience learning with our instructors in an online platform. The advantage to that is if you're living in another part of the country or even internationally, it gives you the opportunity to start into our full-time program without having to move right away. But obviously, when campus is able to reopen, then you'll make that transition to coming out to campus physically. But a lot of students are opting to begin our full-time program now because of the time opportunity and saving money, frankly, on housing to be able to start the program online and then eventually make that transition when campus reopens. So what the Bachelor of Fine Arts program has is, you've got your 4 years. The summer term is an option for students to choose to not take a summer break, but stay on for each of the summer terms, which allows them to finish in 3 years instead of 4. And we've got optional concentrations. There is an optional concentration in game art, which is going to specifically teach you how to do digital production for use within game engines, and our newly announced VFX concentration, which is going to get you into even more VFX-oriented classes as a part of the Bachelor of Fine Arts program at Gnomon. The education in this 4-year program is going to cover all the aspects of a 3D generalist skill set. That means you're going to learn the entire digital production pipeline as a foundation upon which you can build more skill sets in the areas that you're most interested in. Why is this important? It's because it opens many more doors for you as an artist as you go out to start working in the industry, because you know how to do more than one thing. Also, it makes you an incredibly valuable employee, because not only do you know how to do your thing that you're doing for them currently, but you also know how to fit very well within the rest of the production pipeline, and even are able to work on other aspects of the pipeline besides just the one that you've been assigned to. And that really is what makes Gnomon graduates highly sought after as junior artists starting out in studios, because they know that these are going to be artists coming in that really understand the pipeline and the rest of the studio as well. You can start any of the 4 terms out of the year in our full-time programs at Gnomon. We have a rolling admission, which means you can start not just in the fall, but also in the winter and the spring and the summer term as well. Financial aid, of course, is available for a full-time program, and you can look into the usual suspects like Cal Grants, Pell Grants, and so forth. And you can talk with our financial aid department about what other kinds of financial aid are available specifically for students going into our programs, and they can point you in the right direction of what to research in that regard. So moving forward, our 2-year certificate program, as I mentioned, is a full-time, fully accredited program that is more akin to higher education, kind of like getting your master's degree, as it were. It is a little bit more intense, and you're accomplishing, you're taking a bit of heavier course load, going through the 2-year. And this is ideal for someone who already has some art background or some art training and is looking to come to Gnomon as a finishing school. Often we'll get students that have a degree from another art school but are wanting to really launch into digital production. And so they'll come through the 2-year program like James did, to take those 2 years, is really buckle down and intensively study and learn, and then launch out and begin starting their career in the industry. So you're going to get to build foundational 3D skills and then eventually choose a particular area of emphasized study for the remainder of the program. And after that, we have our foundation in art and design. And this is what I was referring to earlier as a portfolio building course at Gnomon. And this is perfect for anyone who is wanting to apply to Gnomon, but maybe doesn't have a portfolio put together yet. Or maybe you haven't had an opportunity to learn some of the foundational art skills, the traditional art skills that are going to be necessary to build 3D learning upon. And so this is a 1-year course that's designed to teach you those things and help you build a portfolio at the same time. It's not required that you remain in the foundation for the entire year. It's there for you to get in and get what you need through the different terms that are available. But you're going to be learning things like figure drawing, life drawing, anatomy for artists, perspective, color and light theory. Excuse the plane passing overhead, guys. Wait for that to pass. And then you'll start getting into some really awesome entertainment design classes like vehicle and mech design, character design, environment design, and so forth. And these are all really necessary skill sets that are going to make you a really effective 3D artist, because 3D is still an extension of art fundamentals, understanding composition and how to create visually compelling stories and those kinds of things. You need that foundation in place. So that's what the foundation course is for. And if you're wanting to, build a portfolio to submit to get admitted into the full-time program at Gnomon, what better way to do that than build the portfolio together with the instructors that teach at Gnomon. So if you're interested in the foundation, you can speak with our admissions advisors, and they'll help you to know, kind of how that's a good fit for you and how you can be moving forward and getting started there. And it goes worth mentioning as well, we've had students that are not intending to learn digital production, that they're wanting to apply to a different type of art school than what Gnomon is. And they've also come through and taken the foundation course as a way to build a portfolio to apply to a different school. So that also is an option for you as well. All right, and then last, it's worth mentioning, our individual courses at Gnomon are 30 hours of course time, or classroom time, spread out over 10 weeks. So that's going to be one class for 3 hours each week. And of course, with your homework and assignments and the time in between. There are traditionally online options, but currently all of our individual classes at Gnomon are available through our custom-built online platform during this time of social distancing. So it's a great opportunity to take an individual class at Gnomon, because you can do that online, and all of the classes are set up and available. It's a very wide variety of subjects ranging from film, game, and visual effects. A lot of our foundational classes are available as well if you're wanting to learn some entertainment design, or if you're wanting to go full out and study things like Houdini and whatnot for visual effects. You could find that range of skill building within our individual classes. All right. So one of the last things I'd like to mention that perhaps is one of the most important things to mention about Gnomon, and that is that we are a very different kind of art school. We do things very differently than what would be the traditional experience at an art college. And one of those is our admissions process. The typical college experience is that the admissions advisor is the person that you kind of wait to speak to until you're ready to apply. And you talk to them, and you kind of take all the stuff that you've gotten ready in your portfolio, and you hand it over, and then say, I want to go to school here. And then you have to stand back and wait and cross your fingers and hope that they get back to you and say, you made it in. At Gnomon, we don't do it that way. Actually, our advisors, and I'll put them up on the screen here. This is our awesome admissions advisor team. They're all artists themselves, and they are available for you to speak with them right now. What they want to be able to do is they want to be able to talk with you about your goals and the kind of thing that you want to do, and talk about how Gnomon might be a good fit for what you're wanting to do and what you're wanting to study. They want to help you with your portfolio before you apply. So in talking with them, you can share your artwork with them, and they will start to coach you and help you tune up your portfolio to help get it in a state where it's more ready to submit for application. And then they're actually the person that, after taking some time back and forth with you, looking your artwork, helping you with your plans, they're the person that then brings your portfolio personally before a review committee and essentially becomes your advocate, who says, this is why I think that this person would be a great artist to come into our program here. So getting to know one of these fine people and working with them and sharing your artwork with them and kind of taking that direction and improving and growing is going to be really essential, because we don't want you to be on your own in figuring out how to enter into Gnomon. We want to be able to give you every best opportunity to, when you finally send in your application and portfolio, you've been informed and you've had the opportunity to prepare. So you can reach out to our admissions team today. My colleague Xander, who you can actually see on the screen right now, he's in the chat, and he can post a link for you where you're essentially just going to fill out a simple digital contact card. This is information that we are going to use to be able to stay in touch with you. We're not going to call you at dinner time for the rest of your life or try to sell you something. This is going to give the opportunity for one of our advisors to reach out to you by email. And I would just advise that you keep an eye on the spam folder in your email, just in case your email server routes their email there. It can happen on occasion, and you'll be able to begin that conversation. This is not going to be, okay, so let's apply right now. This is going to be, how can we help you get ready? How can we help you tune up your portfolio? So all of those resources are available to you through just talking with one of these people. All right. And then it's worth mentioning our campus, because when we are able to reopen, the Gnomon campus is an incredible place to be. And I've got just a short little video, a few clips to acquaint you with what the Gnomon campus is like. So here we go. In just a moment, a little notification there. Thank you very much, Windows. All right. All right, so the Gnomon campus is, located, as you see in the video here, in Hollywood, California. It's actually not in sort of your typical academic building. That's because it's on a movie production lot. It used to be a production lot for Technicolor, and now it houses our Gnomon labs and library and our soundstage where we hold our events and whatnot. So while campus is currently closed, we're all looking forward to be able to open up this amazing location for you to come and immerse yourself in a production environment while learning the very skills and learning those skills from the industry artists who are presently doing those careers today. That being said, as James mentioned earlier on the stream, our online platform is designed, it was custom built to provide you with access to the same type of experience as you would be getting in our labs. By that, I mean access to your instructor, peer-based critique, critique from your instructor, follow-up, and if you're part of the full-time programs, you also have access to all of our student mentorship online as well. So if you'd like to know more about the online experience at Gnomon, you can go to our website, www.gnomon.edu, and right there on the front page, you can scroll down and take a look at a video about our online platform. You can get further acquainted with that. Lastly, want to mention our fantastic events that we do. Traditionally, these are events that are not only streamed, but also done live on our soundstage. And currently, we've been streaming some awesome content, as you can see here. And if you'd like to know about upcoming events on the Gnomon live stream, including events, educational events like this one, also events with some of the top industry artists talking about what they do, in film, television, and games, definitely follow us on social media if you want to be the first to know about the next live stream. We've had some amazing content this year that will continue through the end of the year, and we're already starting to work on some incredible content for 2021. So definitely give us a follow, and so we can see you back here on the live stream at Gnomon. And all of our live streams are also available via, they're recorded and available via our Twitch channel, and they're also on our YouTube channel under, if you go to playlists, you can see kind of an organized playlist section depending on what the content of the stream was. And it's important to know because those can be almost like little mini tutorials or little windows opening into the current state of the industry that you can learn more. And a lot of these are great resources for learning. So we want to mention that Gnomon also provides a virtual classroom experience. If you're an educator at a high school or a community college who is interested in having Gnomon come and communicate with your students, you not only have access to all of our streaming content pre-recorded that you can show in your classroom for free. We also have an experience where, after receiving some information about Gnomon, one of our representatives, including myself, will come and visit your virtual classroom. We get to all draw together in a collaborative-based cloud-based canvas called Magma Studio while we talk about art for the entertainment industry. We talk about career pathways and Gnomon's educational opportunities. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to us. You can actually, I'll give you my email if you want. You can contact me at adam.hartel@gnomon.edu. That's adam.hartel at gnomon.edu. And my colleague Xander can even paste that in the chat. If you are interested in classroom experience, please feel free to reach out to us. So with that, guys, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today. And thank you for taking the opportunity to learn more about Gnomon's academic programs as well. In closing, I do want to mention that closed captioning is available on our YouTube channel as a part of our YouTube stream. So definitely go check that out if you're in need of that. And it will also be available on the recorded version, available for viewing later on YouTube. And in the meantime, guys, stay safe, stay creative, and we'll see you back here at the live stream again soon. I'm Adam Hartel, and thanks to my colleagues Miranda and Xander, who've been helping us out behind the scenes. We'll see you